Hello, everyone. This is Bob Treemore. We're going to do something a little bit different today. Let's look at all the news that came out. And what we're focusing on here is the new, reinvigorated, transformed Barry McCarthy, CEO and president of Peloton, has now manifested himself as Barry Plus. When he replaced John Foley, he hinted at what he was going to be doing, and he has now fully manifested that in every single way. So the John Foley model is off the market. The John Foley Support Center is no longer taking calls. The John Foley FAQ is offline. It is now fully and completely a Barry Plus company. Let's take a look at the news that came out today. It's primarily, entirely revolving around a memo and news coming out of Barry's office, or I should say Barry Plus's office, now that he has fully come into his true form. I mean, the gavel has been slammed, the missile silo has been opened. Hide your children. Barry Plus is in the room. A lot of this memo is really all focused around the financial structure of Peloton. So if anyone's tuning in looking for instructor content or anything like that, that is not kind of what I do as Bob Treemore. I'm more focused on the kind of the inner workings or the financial aspects of Peloton. And that's what we're looking at today. We're looking at all the news that has come out regarding that. And I'm going to touch on the main points of all the news that came out today, Friday, August 12th. First, and these are in no particular order, another round of layoffs. Okay, layoffs are sad. It is unfortunate for these people. I think no one likes to see people lose a position in a company. But in the context of what we're looking here, which is the kind of the financial stability of Peloton, Barry Plus has come into his own, and he is doing a number of things to attempt to get Peloton on the right track back to profitability. So that's the context we're in. So a lot of these things are negative in nature, but hopefully positive toward the long-term prospects of Peloton. So here we are, first round layoffs. So earlier in the year, when John was leaving and Barry Plus was coming in, he was only Barry then, but now he has proven himself to be Barry Plus. John was leaving. There was an announced layoff. It's supposed to be around 20 to 30%. It was supposed to be very significant. And what I put here that was back in like February timeframe. I personally never saw it. The only metrics I can really look at, or anyone outside of Peloton can really look at, is LinkedIn employee counts. And what we have here is back in early 21. I realize it's a little bit hard to read here, going all the way through today. And right around this area, we can kind of see the trend go from rising to falling, but we don't necessarily see a drastic fall off. So my question simply is, and again, LinkedIn stats are what LinkedIn stats are. It's all I have to use. But did significant layoffs really occur earlier this year? Regardless, today Barry Plus is announcing significant layoffs. I would sound, depending on the news reports you read, it's in the hundreds. Seems to be primarily focused on, though it's not exclusively focused on. We're not obviously privy to every single department they're kind of working through, but the logistics area. Going to lay off those people, and we're going to get to logistics here in just a second because that's another main bullet point. Primary bullet point here is large layoffs. And the last point here, I wanted to bring this in. And again, I'm going to insert my own commentary from time to time and not just go through the news. That's what I use this platform for, kind of half and half. On Twitter, I'm pretty much just a data guy. Here, I feel free to give some of my opinion. My two least favorite divisions or departments, teams at Peloton are marketing and R&D. And Perry, within a long memo that you can discover online, it's widely available, He's saying we're going to reduce workforce in a number of areas. And then he kind of comes in later in the memo with this statement. And he's kind of like, we're going to refocus those sources and we're going to continue hiring in targeted areas. And those targeted areas are going to be in marketing and R&D. My least favorite, in my opinion, departments at Peloton are marketing and R&D. Marketing, I just think they're way off the mark. I think they're just doing fluff pieces, superficial pieces, feel good pieces, stuff that we've seen time and time and time again, and is not bringing new people in. It's stuff that we've all been there, done that. It's overproduced. It's probably high dollar cost. I'm not seeing the ROI on marketing, and we talk about ROI. I'm not seeing it all in R&D. If you saw a couple of my previous videos, I talk a little bit more about R&D. But in 10 years, we had initially the bike, and now what we call the Tread Plus. We got the Tread Mini and the Bike Plus, and now the Guide. So in 10 years, we kind of have like 5 SKUs, 6 if you include the app. Peloton themselves actually include data as an app or data as a product. We're not going to go into that here. R&D has done very little. And here he's saying, or at least seemingly done very little. But we're going to use that R&D to develop new features and functionality into existing CF platforms that delight existing members. I'm not interested in Peloton further delighting existing members, if I can be completely blunt. Peloton already has a world-class software platform, world-class content platform. It's not just world-class, it's class leading. No one is coming close to Peloton in terms of software and content. They've climbed the mountain and they're going further. And they can, they're adding things like lane break. They're adding things like adjusting, doing some leaderboard changes, doing some UI changes, adding more games in the future. That's all good and well, and I'm glad they're improving it incrementally, but it's not bringing new people in. And here we're talking about the true makeup, the true financial viability of Peloton. And these incremental software changes, while nice, are one, incremental, meaning they're very minor in nature, and two, they're not bringing in new customers. None of these things by themselves are going to bring in new customers. I don't want them to see them continue to invest R&D dollars. Some, yes, but here we're saying we're going to continue to develop new features. These better be groundbreaking features, Barry Plus. They better be just earth-shattering features, because the NPS scores of Peloton are off the charts. I am exceedingly happy, and pretty much every Peloton member is exceedingly happy. Are you attempting to just make us happier? That's a nice, but don't invest most of your time doing that. Get new members onto the platform, which is already excellent. So they're not doing a lot. They've given us Guide, and they're coming up with Rower. Guide is terrible. Rower, I hope to be fantastic. Tread Mini is great. It scares me that they're going to invest more money in marketing and R&D. I personally, I'm just not excited about that. Let's go to the next point. She's all in-house logistics. As a quick background on Bob Treemore, I spent the last 25 years of my life, over 25 years, being a career professional in big logistics. I know it backwards and forwards and sideways. That's been my career for 25 years. So I come to this as with some level of expertise in how I talk about this. It's good they got out of it. John, who's been recalled, well, he's now sitting on the executive of the board, so he's still there, but John, the product, has been recalled in favor of Barry Plus. He wanted to vertically integrate. So we have things like manufacturing and we have things like logistics. Companies, and if any of you are entrepreneurs or work, all of us work for companies, we want to excel at something. And we want to put most of our effort into that something that is excelling. In other words, we need to define our core competencies. Core competencies. and focus most of our energies there. Peloton's core competencies are very good hardware, world-class content, world-class software. We don't know why. Well, back in the day, their arguments can be made. And even I thought in a period of time that some of these were wise decisions. So in all transparency, that that was a very brief moment for me. But logistics is not a core competency of Peloton. It never should have been. Neither should have been manufacturing. At the time, there were points to be made as to why these potentially were wise decisions if you attempted to just grow into a trillion-dollar company. And those sites were, as we all know, a little too far afield. So they are getting out of running distribution centers or DCs, and they're getting out, I'm assuming, of the whole van thing. Maybe they'll keep a token fleet in New York so that there's some visibility there. But they're getting rid of everything in logistics, or at least that's what they're telling us, and obviously, unfortunately, the people as well. But I can tell you again from being in the logistics industry, um, this is very expensive, and they were never going to become a professional. Leave it to the pros. Give it to the 3PLs. Okay, this is the one that truly flummoxed me, and I'll probably mention this again later. But this memo as a whole, I really liked it. I'm kind of picking out some of the bad things I see, some of the things I disagree with, but Barry Plus, count me as a card carrying member. I'm happy to join up with that troop. Get me the badge, get me the uniform. I'm happy to go right beside him and say, this memo I endorse. There are aspects of it I'm not a fan of, but I'm certainly a fan of reducing the workforce. I'm certainly a fan of exiting the logistics, but I'm also going to focus on some things that I'm not excited about. This slide or this bullet point in Barry's treatise today on what he's doing with the company irritated me, to put it mildly. They're increasing on bike and tread. We're going to increase on the bike and tread, which contain distinctive superior design elements, while keeping the price of the bike Gen 1 and guide. No one cares about guide Barry Plus. The same. We're going to these are going to do three things for us. We're going to maintain an entry point, attractive entry point. We're going to sell down the bike one inventory, and we're going to maintain our position as the undisputed premium brand. That last point, what he means when he says that is they are going to continue to apply the Apple tax to prices. And if you're not familiar with the Apple tax, everyone pays more for Apple products. You can buy a pair of earbuds for 50% less than an Apple, and they have similar functionality. You can buy an Android phone for a third of what you could do for an iPhone. They have similar functionality. You could buy a PC for half the cost of a Mac. They have similar functionality. Peloton has been operating at a premium because Apple enjoys the premium presence, the premium aura, and so they charge a premium price, and everyone seems happy to do that. There was a time in Peloton when an argument can be made, a Peloton tax is reasonable. But everything has been laid in the last 6, 12 months. Everything has been laid bare as to where Peloton is at situationally right now. They are not in a good place. They are no longer in a position to say, we're going to continue applying, my Grey Poupon, please, a Peloton premium. My point here is they have mountains of inventory of Gen 1 bikes, mountains and mountains. Of all the inventory they have, the vast majority, in my opinion, is Gen 1 bikes. And I think what we see here in front of us, and as far as this text is supporting that opinion, they've got loads and loads. I mean, tens and tens and tens of thousands of Gen 1 bikes. So what they've decided to do is they put out a call to Jill Woodworth, if you remember that the old CFO. Remember the Jill who said they raised some money at Peloton, and then an analyst said, Jill, you're going to need to raise any more money, and Jill said, nope, we're good. Don't need to raise any more money. And then a few months later, what did they do? They raised money. And I think what they did here is they said, we've got a hardware pricing problem and a Gen 1 bike problem. Let's call Jill. And so prices that were decreased in April have now gone back to what they were originally. And actually, the Tread Mini has gone up. And that was, I don't know, maybe Jill's idea, maybe it wasn't. But my point of where this is going is this is a terrible decision. What they're doing by increasing these prices is they are forcefully steering new members to the vastly cheapest product, which is now the Gen 1 bike. Gen 1 bike price stayed the same. These went back up. So now the vastly cheapest option to get into Peloton is either used or refurbished or a new old bike, a Gen 1 bike. Why would you go and irritate people and re-raise prices that you just lowered? Why would you apply the Jill method to this? Why would you just not say, we're in a bad place, we're doing a whole slew of cost-cutting changes. Let's admit fault, which we're doing in this memo, and take the bike Gen 1 and take it down to $399, $299, $499. Let's clear these things out of the warehouses. Speaking from a logistics background, these bikes are liabilities. These bikes have been sitting in shelves and on floor space for literally years. They have a negative value attached to them. They don't have zero value. They have a negative value. Every month, these bikes are costing them money, and they have been for years. They need to get these things out so that they are generating $44 a month. And so instead of lowering the price of these insurmountable amount of bikes they have in warehouses, instead of lowering that to $399 and just getting them all out the door and then taking it back to whatever, $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 at a later point in time. At that point in time, frankly, no one's going to care about a Gen 1 bike. Everyone's going to be buying Bike Pluses. Instead of doing that, they re-raised Bike Plus and Tread Mini. Makes no sense to me. I'm flummoxed. I'm flummoxed on this one. I don't get it. Nothing about this makes sense. Next slide. Curbing retail footprint. I think we saw this coming in the memo. If we are all reading the memo or all reading the news that Barry Plus had put out, and we started to get the vibe of what was going on, and we were reading about layoffs, and we were reading about ceasing in-house production and ceasing logistics. I think all of us knew a little bit further down, we're going to reduce our retail presence. Again, sad to see, but if there's one metric Peloton has among the thousands that they do have, they have revenue per square foot. And I guarantee they're going to put that in Excel. They're whatever it is, they're 100, 200 stores. They're going to put that in to their Excel sheet, do a sort by revenue per square foot, and they're going to keep the top 20 stores and kill everybody else, or top 20% of the stores. You know, your thought on that is as good as mine as to what the reduction actually means. But they know what stores are most profitable and least profitable. And my guess is that's the direction they'll go. Work from home, not so much. Barry Plus was in rare form in this section of the memo. All office-based employees, some people just contract permanently. They were hired as remote from work people, are going to return to the office 3 days a week. And then a few lines later, we are going to hope that you choose to abide by this, but don't let the door hit you in the rear end on the way out. So Peloton is built. I think anyone who has witnessed the classes, Peloton is a collaborative company. They love having people in the studios. They love communicating with their members. I have a feeling that is no different from what they would love to be doing inside their office space. They want to collaborate. They want a camaraderie. And obviously, I'm sure there's some portion of productivity that they feel is better when everyone is in the office. So it was interesting that this actually made the memo among all the very important things, because this doesn't necessarily affect finances, being profitable versus not profitable, perhaps very tangentially. Um, but it's interesting that Barry went ahead and put this out, and I think it was Barry saying, Barry, the old Barry's gone, Barry Plus is here, and this is how it's going to work. You either show up and abide by the 3-day rule, or you don't, and you can be part of the layoff crew, which obviously is unfortunate. And then we have kind of as a wrap-up slide, the Barry forward-looking comments. So when Barry was replacing John, some of the very first words out of his mouth were a return to profitability and free cash flow. Literally some of the very first words out of his mouth. Right-sizing our inventory justly is in here as well, because that is one of the biggest problems that Peloton has. Cash is oxygen, cash is life. Barry Plus being Barry Plus. Gosh, I hope we never see a Barry Plus Plus, because I don't know that I would be able to reckon that to reality. We have to make our revenues stop shrinking, and we need to start growing again. This is him being honest. The future of connected fitness is Peloton's own. I don't think I need to argue this point. Peloton currently owns connected fitness. If you watch, I think it's my immediately prior video, I go through this. Peloton owns connected fitness right now by a wide margin. And Barry is here saying, we got to do everything that I'm announcing today to maintain that dominant standpoint, to maintain decimating the competition. I don't know how he's going to do it in terms of new products, new services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm sure he has a plan above and beyond what we're seeing today. In fact, I would expect the Barry Plus news cycle to pick up. It's not going to drop off. We don't hear a lot from Barry himself. John Foley never had a huge presence, but every so often he'd pop his head up. We don't hear a lot from Barry. Barry's kind of a recluse, but he's obviously doing things behind the scenes, and I appreciate it. Like I said, I really, in general, support everything in this memo. There's some nitpick things that I'm not a fan of, but I like Barry Plus. This is what Peloton needs right now. I'm not absolving them. These measures don't absolve Peloton from the past sins that they have committed, of which there are many. So this doesn't kind of bring them to level or to positive. But this is what Barry McCarthy promised on day one, and Barry Plus appears to be delivering today. And let's hope he continues delivering it in the future. So kudos to Barry Plus. I like what I'm seeing. I want to see more. I am sad about the folks who won't be continuing with Peloton, but in order for the people who stay at Peloton to continue, and for us as customers to continue using Peloton, decisions and changes have to be made. So just going through today's news, I appreciate y'all sitting through. There was one other thing I was going to show you if we're tuning in still late. Um, this is bonus footage. You can close out the stream here if you want. But this is, I stopped updating this a little while ago, but what we're seeing here is all the blue dots are items that I defined as Peloton's distribution centers. So that is a lot, and they all disappear. Can you imagine the cost savings there when you're handing it over to professional 3PLs? I mean, look at all those employees, all that real estate, all those trucking scheduling software, all the headaches involved in delivering to individual addresses when your job is to produce fitness content. Oh my gosh. So those all go away. These purple things are refurb centers. I don't know the fate of those, but um, they'll either stick around or they won't. And the red are larger headquarters of Peloton. In New York, we have the main headquarters. In Atlanta, internally, Peloton calls it their music headquarters. So all the music licensing and stuff that they do, that's kind of organized and set up out of Atlanta. They did have a Plano. Well, they did do, Plano has been mentioned today as being potentially on the block, maybe not entirely, but there's kind of a redundant, kind of a backup headquarters, if you will, of New York. A lot of the jobs in New York are actually duplicated out here in Plano, but they're going to reduce the size of Plano. Um, and then they've got a couple sites in Arizona and California that I've never really been able to completely narrow down what they do there, but these are certainly three of the biggies out here. And I imagine certainly New York will stay, probably Atlanta will stay, and part of Plano will stay. But the big one is, goodness gracious, all these DCs. So that was the bonus content, folks. I appreciate you tuning in, and we'll talk to you later.